Good evening, everyone. This is Lou, and this is the beginning of my webinar this evening entitled The Inner Marriage, and I welcome you to it. So please make yourselves comfortable. I know this might be dinner time for some of you, and I know it is for me, but I decided to push it back an hour so that folks in other time zones could join us. So get yourself comfortable if you would, and we'll start here momentarily. I want to let you know that this is the first time I've offered a webinar, so it's all new to me, and it might seem a little clunky, but nonetheless, welcome. It's the Inner Marriage. Prepare to meet your beloved in 2015. And that's me, Lou Stinger. I'm a counselor and personal coach. So in your seat, to start, I would like for us to just pause. I know maybe some of you are coming in from a day of work, and you may have had bad traffic to deal with, or annoying people, whatever. Let's just pause here, and I'd like for us to take a nice, slow, deep breath. Feel yourself in your seat, if you would. And if you could close out any other programs or windows you have running, that would be good. So feel yourself just settling into your seat. Feel your sit bones supporting you, back of your chair or couch, whatever you're sitting in. And let's take another slow, deep breath. And just exhale slowly. Think about the kind of day you've had and what your state of being is at the moment. And see if you can just let that go. We have many folks on this webinar tonight from different time zones. So I'd like to take a moment here to pause and imagine that from whatever time zone we're attending, that we're all sitting in a circle together tonight at this moment. And in the center of the circle is a small fire. You can see the flames flickering about there. It's warm. You can feel the warmth on your face. So there's about 20 of us, 22 or 23 of us here tonight. So I welcome all of you. And as you think about the kind of day you've had, I'd like for you to imagine that you can write the most kind of annoying or the most salient thing about your day that you would like to put aside or let go of at this moment. You're going to write it down on a piece of paper. Do that now in your mind. And then when you're ready, see yourself tossing it into the fire. So you're just putting that piece aside for the next few minutes that we're together, and one more slow, deep breath to let go on your out breath. Thank you. And if you get distracted at any time during this, you can bring your mind back to the circle of all of us together. So I wanted to just say a little bit about my background. Some of you know a little bit about me, some of you don't, but anyway, I wanted to say that I loved the study of psychology when I was an undergraduate and graduate student back in the 70s. And it was my inspiration. I loved being a student. And in fact, I still love being a student. And I've been back to school many times. It's something I really enjoy. So I did a Master of Arts degree in psychology with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy after I had majored in psych as an undergraduate. And after that, I moved to Boulder. The day after I received this master's degree, I moved to Boulder. I was married at the time and wanted to start a career as a mental health therapist. But I found that the climate here was very different, and I really didn't know that I was supposed to do research on where I was moving to. So what I found out was a Master of Arts in Psychology really was not the degree to have here. The degree for work, finding jobs, was a Master's of Social Work. So I had a very tough time here. In fact, I went to the mental health center to volunteer and was promptly turned away. It was not fun. So it was a rough start. But I got involved in nonprofits. I started in Boulder at the Boulder Women's Resource Center and was a part-time coordinator of their satellite office in Longmont. They were in the midst of the organization as a whole was in the midst of financial challenges, and so they had to close down. And myself and two other volunteers, actually, we started our own nonprofit Women's Resource Center in Longmont together. Not too long after that, I found Naropa. I wasn't looking for Naropa. I was not looking for meditation, but I found it nonetheless. I almost literally stumbled into it and wanted to further study. So I did the Masters of Arts in contemplative psychotherapy there. And at that time, it was called Buddhist and Western psychology, but shortly after my class finished, it went over to contemplative psychotherapy. I also studied organization development, or organization psychology, also known as human resource development, at American University for a Master of Science degree. So you can see I really do love being a student. And I've been in higher education for quite a while. I've been a facilitator at Regis University in the nonprofit management program since 2000, and most of those have been online classes. So that's a little bit about me. I live in Boulder now, but I think I've said that. So, okay, on we go. So, why am I offering this webinar? Well, I've noticed, as you probably have, and this is no surprise, that so many people are looking for love, for a committed life partner or spouse. We are human beings with beating hearts, and we really do want to share with another person in a deeply intimate way. So we also seem to be wired, sorry for using that word, for family life and partnership, for community. So, but sometimes we get, led astray, or we don't really get we might get a little bit of a twisted view. You've noticed that many of our books and movies depict the longing for love, the search, and sometimes finding the one and the happily ever after ending. But since we live on planet Earth, we know that longing and that search, but the happily ever after seems to elude us. And I think that's what the planet is about. I think of Earth sometimes as a giant learning lab. So I think, especially in the culture we live in the United States, most of us are not prepared for the journey that is marriage. And there are some pockets of communities, faith communities around, that do have structures and ways for a couple to be prepared. But as a general culture, we're not. Why is that? Well, hang in there. We're going to get to some of that. So, looking at our environment, I like to think of our environment as this giant ocean that we're all swimming in. And if we really look at the qualities of the water in the ocean that we're swimming in, you can either think of this literally or metaphorically. I'm meaning it metaphorically, but we also sometimes get startling and alarming information about what literally is the quality of water. That water we're swimming in is moving very fast. It's churning. It's continually murky, and it doesn't ever seem to settle. We seem to be moving at a frenetic pace. And also, it feels to me like we're bombarded by input from the world. For instance, we get instantaneous news of events. This can be a good thing, but it also can be very disturbing, upsetting. Not that it shouldn't be. We mostly want to know about our world that we live in. It's just, we also have to, I think, protect our hearts. We also get bombarded by what seems to be incessant marketing. We are a people that are continually marketed to, and in the season that we're in now, especially holidays. So we're in a fast-paced culture, and that seems only concerned with the latest, the fastest, the best, the shiniest, the sexiest, whatever you call it. about acquisition, getting things. Again, I'm speaking generally about our culture. The way love relationships are presented too, or finding that partner, that spouse, that loved one, is sometimes kind of twisted, but sometimes not. But we have the things like the eHarmonies and the Match.coms and speed dating, so you can get that loved one really quickly and really fast, which is, I think, really rare if someone finds that. Extremely rare. It just seems that as our culture continues to speed up, the real values of our lives become invisible, get shoved to the side, aren't even looked at. Um, Again, in general, there are pockets of communities, um, as we know, or we're even parts of some of those communities, that do place values ahead of everything else. So then what? Well, we're human beings, so we're not oblivious to our surroundings. We're impacted by the things going on around us. Excuse me, by the ocean we're swimming in, um, to greater or lesser degrees. Some of us are extremely sensitive to the nuances of the changes or the negativities or anything else in that ocean, that environment. And some of us are completely oblivious. And we live in a culture, in my opinion, where we're encouraged to be oblivious about our environment. We all seem to be in a big hurry, um, as everything speeds up. And of course, in the information and technologies we deal with um, are hurrying things along too. We get information instantaneously. But in our personal lives, many of us take on too much. We're overscheduled, overcommitted, and as a country, we work more hours a year than people of most other countries. So we're a little bit off center. So I wanted to quote Wayne Muller. He says, "Our culture invariably supposes that action and accomplishment are better than rest, that doing something, anything, is better than doing nothing. And because we do not rest, we lose our way. We then can't settle. We cannot let the waters of the ocean we're swimming in settle. It's not going to settle anytime soon, but what about the waters around us? And as a culture, we seem to take pride in always being busy. We might run into a friend at the store. Well, how are you? Well, I'm just so busy. And okay, there's nothing wrong inherently with being busy or being productive. It's just that we have to take a look at, okay, what's reasonable? How can I stay centered? So Muller says we've lost a rhythm of rest. And here's his book, which I highly recommend, Sabbath: Finding Rest, Renewal, and Delight in Our Busy Lives. It's a non-denominational book about really turning around our overcommittedness, our being overscheduled. So you might ask, why am I bringing up rest? We have too much to do. Yes, it feels like that, doesn't it? So balance, I'm sure you've heard this, the balance between work and rest. The problem is that now we can actually start to give ourselves a hard time for not being balanced, and that's not the point either. So honoring our body's need for proper rest is a key component to setting the stage for meeting the beloved. If we're not rested, if we're not inhabiting our body so that we can hear when it needs proper rest, as well as other things, we are not going to be paying attention when our potential beloved walks right in front of us. So remember, the ocean of the general culture is murky water. So we need to take steps in our own lives to let that water settle so that we can see clearly down to the bottom. We can see into the depths, and metaphorically into the depths of our being. We can't know what's right for us or not right for us if we're dealing with churning, murky waters around us. So I would suggest that in your home life, creating a time, a space in which you can settle into a state of quietude or quiescence, so that the waters of your personal life that immediately surround you can settle and become clear. And I like to call this the well. This is the well that we can return to for refreshment, or in other words, for tilting the pendulum, you might say, back into a state toward balance. So I see balance as a moving target. We don't get there and stay there. So the well, you want to create a situation in your life that you can settle into a state of quietude so that your water around you, immediately around you, becomes clear. And while I was doing this, I remembered the well from the I Ching, or the Book of Changes. It's hexagram 46, the well. So I just wanted to remind you of this. Some of you know about the I Ching. It was used as an oracle in ancient times. The wood goes down into the earth to bring up water. The image derives from the pole and bucket well of ancient China. The wood represents not the buckets, but rather the wooden poles by which the water is hauled up from the well. The image also refers to the world of plants, which lift water out of the earth by means of their fibers. The well from which water is drawn conveys the further idea of an inexhaustible dispensing of nourishment. So we have our own well, and we can make this state of quietude from which we draw the waters of refreshment as a centerpiece for our state of being, especially when we realize we've been thrown off balance. So it dispenses inexhaustible nourishment. So having a regular time for quiet, stillness, or appreciation, or being in nature can enable us to better handle being blown off balance. Learn to discern. So what is discernment? Oxford says it's the ability to judge well. Merriam-Webster says the ability to see and understand people, things, or situations clearly and intelligently. So that's the head talking. But there is the discernment of the heart, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. It's very difficult to cultivate discernment if our lives are nonstop with no opportunity to rest, reflect, and restore energy, not to mention to restore a sense of well-being. So the head and heart work together in discernment, but we have to honor the body that we're inhabiting. Cultivating discernment also contributes, it's a key contributor for meeting the beloved. So, wanted to say just a little bit about laying the proper ground for meeting the beloved. Um, Self-knowledge and self-awareness, these are critical to establishing a proper foundation for meeting the beloved and hence leading to the outer marriage. We, we tend to think that we know ourselves well, but we do. We do to a certain extent. And maybe the older we are, the better we know ourselves compared to when we were in our 20s, 30s, 40s, or whatever. But there's always the depths to explore. So unless we have deeply investigated, explored our values, beliefs, our views of life, and I'll include our shadow aspects, we don't really know ourselves completely. And actually, I'm not sure that we can, because our lives seem unfathomable, but we can begin to fathom them. When we don't know ourselves, what we tend to do is project our hopes, dreams, wishes, both conscious and unconscious, onto another person. And the most likely subject of that would be the person we choose to marry, or the beloved. As well as there are other people, family members. I'm sure we all know about this. So exploring your inner life, your values, your assumptions and blocks, to being ready and open to meeting the beloved is part of laying the proper ground. So the three best ways that I think to prepare are restoring a rhythm of rest in your life. And that includes proper self-care on all levels that we all know about. Proper rest, proper food, proper exercise, fun, joy, being in nature. Learn to discern. Having a way to create a situation in which we're quiet enough to let our life waters settle to clarity, and increasing self-knowledge and self-awareness by exploring our inner lives. So I would like to just pause here. Let's pause. And again, please take a slow, deep breath. Slowly exhale. I'd like for you to close your eyes and let your awareness drop down into your heart area. You may find your awareness flips up and down between your head and thoughts and down into your heart area. That's fine. Just keep your breath. Keep aware of your breath as it goes in and out of your nostrils. Just let your awareness rest there at your heart. What's the quality of your breath right now? Is it shallow and quick, or deep and slow? What about the area around your heart? What's the quality of that? Is there a flame there in your heart? I think a flame lives in all of our hearts, and sometimes it's small and seemingly weak. Sometimes it's like that on a candle flame, and sometimes it's roaring with energy and heat or warmth, like the fire in our circle. So take another slow, deep breath. And exhale slowly and open your eyes. Thank you. So I wanted to give an example of someone who was not preparing the ground for marriage, for the outer marriage. And going to use myself. Um, I lived with a man for, I'm trying to remember, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. And we were married. I was 26. He was a little older than me. It wasn't until later on in life that I looked at why I married, and now I can see it. I was looking for security. I didn't trust myself. I had very little self-awareness. I had some because I had studied psychology, but really not to any depth. I did not acknowledge the truth of the relationship that I had, and I had an insecure personality, which I still sort of struggle with these days. I'm so much better, though, I have you know. So I was very afraid of myself and of my life. Very, very afraid, run by fear, and I was completely unaware of it. So what was I missing? Of course, obviously, self-knowledge. I knew myself somewhat, but not really. What else was missing? An honest relationship to myself. I had not really taken the deep dive to find out and explore who I really was. What else was missing? The ability or willingness to relate to fear. I was just simply run by it. Was also did not I was missing an acceptance of my denied or rejected characteristics. I wasn't really accepting anything about the negative things that were running me. So, and I continued to project those denied aspects onto others and the other, as well as positive. Not only the denied characteristics, but positive characteristics, because I saw my beloved as the savior, the one who had it all together, the breadwinner, the person who really knew everything that I could rely on and trust, but not myself. So it was a positive shadow projection. I was also missing self-compassion or loving kindness or maitri, that I could just simply have a sense of kindness toward myself, compassion toward myself. It wasn't until I began meditating that I connected with that. And I was also missing a concept of proper self-care. Um, some days I'm amazed I'm still alive. So, and of course, I just drove myself into the ground. So there was no balance between work and rest. was also missing any discernment whatsoever that involved both the head and the heart. So I wanted to invite you to look at some ways here that you can explore your inner life. I hope you can read some of this. I'm going to try to make it bigger. But you can see it's a tree. It's a tree of contemplative practices. And each branch has a quality. Stillness on the left. I'm going in clockwise. Stillness on the left is one branch, generative, another up above that, creative. Then we have activist at the top, relational, movement, and ritual, cyclical on the right-hand side. But the trunk of the tree at the bottom, I don't know if you can see this, is communion and connection. It's where the tree meets the earth, and also awareness. So these are ways, and some of you may be doing these. There are things like yoga practice, dance, aikido, music and singing, and of course meditation, silence, centering and centering prayer for the stillness practices. These are all ways to explore the inner life, your inner life, to let the roots of yourself go down deep into the well of your being. So it's key that we not forget our hearts. Our hearts are big players in this, being prepared to meet your beloved. And as you've already discovered probably, that your life and our hearts are non-linear. James Hillman, I wanted to include this quote. The heart brings us authentic tidings of invisible things. We feel with our hearts. We make connections. So we have to be in touch with our hearts to be aware of not only our own lives, but the people we're connected to. Thomas Carlyle, he said, it's the heart that always sees before the head can see. So I also wanted to tell you, I recently read a book called The Secret Teachings of Plants. And the subtitle is The Heart as an Organ of Perception in the Direct Perception of Nature. And he goes into incredible depth about the heart. It's where I got these quotes from. Radical self-acceptance is also another key. This is in the proper self-care and honoring the body. I thought this was a good quote. I chose this one because this really describes me leading into my marriage. I was looking for love to compensate for a self-love deficit. So it begins with radical self-acceptance. Why do I say radical? Because for many of us it feels radical. Because we've been saying such negative things to ourselves for so long. Stanislav Grof says, I suddenly understood the message of so many spiritual teachers, that the only revolution that can work is the inner transformation of every being. So it's important to remember mystery. Our culture has no concept of mystery in our lives. Totally not there. Although we do see some of it in children's movies and books. Linda Leonard says that the collective and societal images that we've been raised with don't reflect us as the unique people that we are. We forget our uniqueness is that mystery of growth, the unique way we are from within. So that's why I'm calling this the inner marriage, is we start from within. She also says we become fascinated with trivial matters. It seems like our general culture is like that, and mystery is lost. The mystery of our unique selves, the mystery of the other, the mystery of the cosmos. We've totally lost anything about this in the popular or general culture. So this is her, I quoted this from her book called On the Way to the Wedding, Transforming the Love Relationship. Linda Leonard, is a Jungian analyst. A very interesting book. I'm reading it again for the umpteenth time. It's very, very interesting. So, I'm assuming you're here because you really want a committed relationship. And you may or may not have been looking for the beloved. So, here's what I'm thinking. If you want a committed relationship and are willing to stop looking for one, at least for now, you're willing to prepare the proper foundation for meeting your beloved, willing to dive deep and meet yourself in the depths of your being, willing to engage in radical self-acceptance, or practice it. We all are, on a journey, on a path. So it's really important that we practice what it is we want, what it is we want to, how we want to be. So accepting ourselves is a key place. So it's a practice of working with ourselves. So people who master something or accomplish great, incredible musicians, athletes, artists, they practice. It's so important. We don't ever get it right, but we can get close. So are you willing to take time to engage in reflective practices such as journaling or meditation, solitude, or being in nature? There are many, as you saw on the tree of contemplative practice, but engage in one or two that you can connect with, that reconnects you to yourself, that enables you to go to the well of yourself. And are you willing to look at your own shadow projections? The shadow, or the denied aspects, are unconscious by definition. So we need to kind of trick ourselves. So I would be working, there are ways that you can bring those out to the light of day. And willing to celebrate yourself. Be your own best friend. Then I invite you to take the time in your life to explore the inner sanctum of yourself. Maybe you've heard of the inner sanctum. I think it used to be a TV show, old 50s thing. I'm not sure. But anyway, by definition, it's the most sacred place in a temple or church. So also it's a private or secret place to which few other people are admitted. Sometimes we don't even admit ourselves into it. So, are you willing to open up to the discovery of the sacredness of yourself. You know, the word sacred and sacredness has been bandied about in our culture, especially in new agey kinds of things. But experiencing that is a different thing from just talking about it. It's the experience of the sacredness of yourself I'm inviting you to do. Are you willing to explore the mystery of your unique self? The mystery not only of that, but of your life. So I'm doing all this because I want to offer you something. This is my heart's desire, to begin a structured, guided journey to uncover the promise to yourself in your inner marriage. You know, in the outer marriage, we make a promise or take a vow with someone else. But what about the promise to yourself? Are you willing to take a guided journey to uncover that? Most of us don't know what that is. I invite you to enter your inner sanctum to explore and appreciate the treasures that are residing within yourself and your heart. See what obstacles are preventing you from your full self-acceptance. We all have the obstacles. They're all there. Some are bigger than others. But it's possible to relate to them and see what they have to say to us. I invite you to articulate what you value in yourself and in your potential, beloved, and allow your heart's imagination and longings to speak and be heard. That's my invitation to you. And cultivate radical self-acceptance and loving kindness. All that's a journey to greater or lesser degrees. We all have our own path and we're all in different places on that. But I invite you to have a guide in me. Because when we're willing to meet and accept the tough stuff within ourselves, then we're more readily to meet the tough stuff that arises in relationship to the beloved. Where do we start? We begin with ourselves. So now you have some choices. So this I could never get straightened out. I want to offer you a guided journey, a 120-day program with 2 tracks, an in-person group in Boulder. I have 6 seats there, or an all online group. Both tracks will get kickoff meetings in January. Track 1, the in-person group. Track 2, the online. And also I will create a confidential Facebook communities for discussion and encouragement, celebration, accountability. You'll get private coaching calls with me. I'm not going to charge these numbers that you see. In-person meetings 4, online meetings 2 a month, structured questions weekly for reflection and journaling, and guided relaxation and imagery exercises. Guided exercises and a ritual for calling in the beloved. And then you get my expertise and humor, insight. I didn't put a price on that, but I'm saying that this is a $1,500 value for $567, except for this group of you registering for this $397 or 3 payments right here. And if you want, I can send you this PowerPoint by email. But I want to say I have a money-back guarantee. Yes, I do. Wait, there's more. If you wholeheartedly engage in this program from start to finish and you find it unsatisfactory, I'll return your money to you. So, isn't it time to prepare yourself to meet the beloved? This program that I have will guide you to explore the inner the sacredness of yourself. It'll allow you to cultivate radical self-acceptance and loving kindness, to honor who you are with support, encouragement, and celebration. And by the end, you'll be poised to call in your beloved with an open heart, mind, and spirit. So, I want to thank you for attending. I think that I am going to try to find if there were any questions